And welcome to the closing night Q&A at Yale and Hollywood Fest 2020. First of all, I want to thank my team, Kevin Winston, president of Yale and Hollywood, Hannah Ruth Earl, shorts programmer, Melissa Johnson, features programmer. Thank you so much because without you guys, we wouldn't have a festival. I'm very excited tonight to have the closing night feature filmmaker, Sam Zalutsky, who produced, directed, and wrote the feature Seaside. Just want to also mention that Yale School of Drama alum Sharon Washington plays the mother of Ariana DeBose in the film. Tonight's program, we're going to start with doing the Q&A with Sam for 20 minutes, and then we're going to move on to, we're going to bring the jurors, our esteemed jury, on screen, and they're going to be announcing the awards for the festival. So, Sam, how are you doing tonight?
Hi, I'm great. Thanks for having me, Quentin, and thanks to everyone who put this festival together. It's great to be a part of it.
And you're right now in New York, right?
Yes, I'm in New York City and happy to have an occasion to put on something other than sweats. So thank you.
Sure. Just before we move on to Seaside, I just want to basically ask about your journey from graduating from Yale to you went to NYU Film School, right? After that,
I did.
and
Yeah.
then to making your first feature. What is that journey like? Can you talk a little bit about it?
Sure. After Yale, I did Yale in China for a year. I love traveling and experiencing other cultures, and wasn't sure what I wanted to do, so that was a great opportunity. Then I went to San Francisco for a couple of years and worked in various jobs, and also tried to get involved in the film world there. But decided that an MFA program was really the best way for me to pursue my goal to be a writer and director. So I went to NYU, and at the end of NYU, while making my thesis film, I started writing You Belong to Me, which was my first feature, which is a psychological horror movie that, it still took probably 7, 8, 9 years to finish. But wow. I worked on that, for a while in school. And then after school, I was working various jobs. I was reading scripts for Miramax, figuring out, pitching the project, figuring out how to get it made. And finally, I just decided that I had other projects in me, other stories I wanted to tell, and I just, needed to make it. And so I made it for a very small amount of money. And in New York City, and then went around to festivals with it and sold it to Wolf. So, yeah.
So I just want to clarify a little bit. So You Belong to Me was, I saw it at the Frameline San Francisco International Gay and Lesbian Film Festival. I would say 2008, and so you finished it 2007. So were you saying that you actually started the film in 2000?
Yeah, about that time. I started writing it then and shot in 2006. It was first feature, so I was determined to make it, but also new at writing features. So it took me a while to figure out the story and to raise the money and to cast and everything. Shot it in 2006. I think it was at Frameline in 2007 and then came out in 2008 with Wolf. But yeah.
Okay, wow, fantastic. So now I know it took you a little while to make your second feature, which is Seaside, and which got released in 2018, right? So how did you end up making Seaside, and what was the inspiration for the film?
Well, after You Belong to Me came out, I really was eager to get back to making another feature, and worked on various screenplays and wrote pilots and whatever, and tried to get things made at a bigger budget. But that was certainly really challenging. So I knew I had a house on the Oregon coast that my family owned, and I knew that I could make a movie there for $100,000. So I was thinking, sort of, what is the Oregon coast to me? I grew up in Portland and went to the coast all my life, and there was a kind of I would say dangerous beauty about the place, with the rugged rocks and trees and the dangerous ocean. I was told from a very young age never to turn my back to the ocean. So there was this theme of, dangerous beauty, and what did that mean? And how could I do a movie for $100,000 in this house? So, I usually am inspired by sort of darker genre-y horror thriller type stories. So I thought, a love triangle in this house. And it took me a while to write it, probably not as long as You Belong to Me. But then finding a great producer in Portland also took a while, but then I did, and we shot it. So we actually shot it in 2016 and edited it for about a year. And then it took a while to get distributed. It came out last year, actually, with Gravitas streaming on Amazon, Vudu, Google Play, all that.
Well, congratulations.
Thanks.
I just want to backtrack a little bit and just do you mind talking about the budget for You Belong to Me
Of course.
and I know that it's and just to see how was it really hard to raise money for your first feature?
Yeah, it was hard. I mean, I think when I was starting out on it in the early aughts, it was sort of maybe the sort of New York indie scene was really changing and petering out in a way, and now it's sort of kept reinventing itself as something different. So I was hoping to do it for something like $1 million, $1.5 million, or whatever, and I had a hard time. I had a lot of meetings, a lot of people liked it. Didn't happen. And finally, I just decided again that I had to make it. So it was $200,000 was the budget, and raised it all from family and friends of family and family of friends, and made an LLC and did it that way. So yeah, and then Seaside was even less money, but it was $100,000, and that was a combo.
Oh, really? Wow! Because Seaside looks really good.
Thank you.
And,
Thank you.
Was because like You Belong to Me was released on SD and not HD?
Yeah, I think that's well, I think we shot it on HD, but obviously I think the technology has improved. We shot 4K for Seaside, so that was higher quality. But I think just over time, obviously the technology gets better. But yeah, the budget was about a half. I think the crew was maybe twice the size on You Belong to Me, but there was a wide range of experiences. Some people had a lot of experience, some people didn't have a lot of experience. With Seaside, the crew was probably 15 people total, and almost everyone was a very experienced, highly trained, really talented, head of department kind of person in Portland. So, those were some interesting differences.
How did you put the cast together with Seaside? I knew that you have 2 Yale alums in the cast. So,
I had a casting director, Jordan Beswick, who I worked with on my MFA thesis film here in New York, and then he cast You Belong to Me, and then he also cast the 4 leads for Seaside. So he worked with me very closely to kind of identify the talent, which was really fun and exciting. And then for all the other roles, those were all cast out of Portland, and Simon Max Hill, who's a local who does a lot of the really big movies or indie movies that come to Portland. He cast all the locals. So.
And you seem like you really have an affinity towards this kind of like thriller, kind of like darker genre. Can you talk a little bit about your influences and your favorite filmmakers and what inspired you to kind of make films?
Yeah. I was a TV junkie and a movie junkie growing up. My dad took me to like Humphrey Bogart and John Wayne festivals in Portland, and I went to all the art house theaters. I loved sort of European art house, American independent stuff in high school and college, Spike Lee. In college, I was really inspired by the new queer cinema, Todd Haynes, Tom Kalin, Jenny Livingston had huge influences on me. That was when I kind of realized like, I could be a director, and I could tell stories that sort of, are about my life, but then also got interested in, especially with going to China for a year, Chinese fifth wave filmmakers, Australian filmmakers. Jane Campion is one of my favorite filmmakers. A lot of European, Almodovar, Polanski was a real influence early in my career. Sort of that sort of sense of fear and anxiety, I think. I'm definitely drawn to sort of those types of stories about betrayal, about fear, anxiety. But also sort of in a larger sense, sort of like what makes us do the things we do. Why, real curious about human behavior, why people behave the way they behave. I think, again, with like this dangerous beauty theme for Seaside, I wanted to look at characters that, you know, or that that we all have the ability to behave in a way that is beautiful. We're all beautiful, but we also have to have the ability to do terrible things, and that always kind of fascinated me and scared me and inspired me and interested me. So that was, I think, the thriller genre especially, you know, is about sort of peeling back the layers of character and why we behave the way we do. I mean, also as a kid, I read a ton. I read like every Agatha Christie book ever and over again. So, you know, it's a
And
kind
what I find interesting is that not only you're really sort of like transforming this kind of like thriller genre, you also sort of bring in your queer identity. So, because I know in the first film, You Belong to Me, the main protagonist is basically a gay man, and
yeah.
and you're wondering like, wow, what could really scare him or threaten him?
Yeah.
And then also in this movie, somehow, you know, without, I guess it's a bit of a spoiler, but there is this kind of like, you know, also a lesbian love affair in it, and I find that, you know, really, can you talk about that, just basically your queer identity and your filmmaking?
Sure. I mean, I love combining, again, these type of genres with characters that have been traditionally excluded from these genres. I think film, you know, film is both art and commerce. Some people lean one way that is more one. Some people lean more the other. My background, I was a studio artist in college, always making art, photography, drawing, sculpture. So for me, that sort of sense of artistry is really important, and also the idea of telling a story that pushes boundaries, that challenges the audience, that doesn't talk down to the audience, that, you know, makes space for people who have not been included in these type of films. I love these type of films, but you know,
Mm-hmm.
the same sort of heterosexual cis white male protagonist is not that interesting to me. It's something I grew up with all my life, and didn't really, you know, there were no gay protagonists in movies, certainly in mainstream movies. So what, you know, I think it's valuable to make work that, you know, expands who we think of as who the protagonist can and should be.
So before I open up the Q&A, I have one last question. It's like, what are you working on now, and what's the one project that you're most excited about making?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I have a lot of scripts. I mean, again, in between projects, I'm always writing other things. I have a bunch of features and pilots that I've written and worked on. I think the one that I'm most passionate about right now is a very, very dark comedy. It's an adaptation of a book called The Book of Dahlia, and it's about a 20-something stoner named Dahlia Finger who moves home to LA to jumpstart her life, and she ends up having a seizure and waking up having had a brain tumor removed from her head. So it's really kind of a story about how does she fight the disease, fight with her overbearing parents, fight with her past, and you know, searching. It's sort of an existential quest movie in terms of searching for the answer. Why is this happening to me? And it's a lot like, I would say, something like I, Tonya or Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. It's very meta in its own way. It's sort of, she talks to the audience. It goes back and forth in time. So it's a book that I found at a point when I was at a real low point, I would say, in my life. And it really moved me that I found this character, that the writer wrote about this character who, you know, if I probably met her or saw her, I would probably move across the street. And yet I felt such incredible empathy for her, that, you know, the complexity, I think that's another really important thing for me, is showing characters who are complex. So the complexity in Dahlia's life and how she tries to sort of make sense of her life was very powerful and very meaningful. So, you know, I've been working on that for a while, and, you know, trying to attach talent to that. I think there's a lot of really exciting roles, and so hopefully we'll get that going soon.
So I look forward to you coming out to LA. It'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So I'm going to start asking some questions from the audience. The first question is, if you could remake one of your favorite movies from growing up through a more modern and inclusive lens, which would you choose?
Wow, that's such a great question. Oh my God. Um, I think it's interesting. I think I love the John Hughes movies. I mean, I wasn't like a huge John Hughes freak, but I think his movies really spoke to me in a lot of ways. So maybe perhaps something like 16 Candles, uh, in a way that has real problems with race and gender. Looking back on it, would be an interesting thing to take a look at. So maybe something like that. Also, maybe Rosemary's Baby to me is my favorite movie. I don't think you can make it any better, but I love that movie so much. Or Hair was also, the musical Hair was also a kind of a life-changing movie for me when I saw that in sixth grade. So that's relatively inclusive in certain ways, but it would be interesting to think about that.
Are there any questions from the audience? You can just put it in the Q&A box. And then, so I have another question. It's
Yeah,
that we sort of came from this whole film school generation, like MFA kind
yeah.
of generation. And do you still think that it's necessary for filmmakers to, to go to film school? Because I think I guess like did you did you enjoy going to film school, and what did it do
Yeah.
you value it?
Yeah, I mean, for me, film school really was the right choice. I had time to kind of figure out who I was as a filmmaker and experiment and try things and fail and succeed. And I had some really fantastic professors when I was there who inspired me and taught me a lot. Um, but I think in a weird, in a certain way, I was thinking about this question is that, film school is a little bit like going to Yale. It's like, it's certainly not for everyone. It can cost a ton of money. And there's no one right way. I think that's what's the blessing and the curse of this career, is that there's no one right way to do it. Whereas so many other careers, you kind of just get in line and move forward and work hard, and there's an assumption that you'll succeed. And I think as a filmmaker, that really isn't always true. So, film school, you can make great connections, you can learn a ton, but obviously it's very clear that plenty of people have not gone to film school. I think also with the industry being so focused on episodic these days, a lot of people get their start sort of being writer's assistants, or writing a spec script and getting in a writer's room, which I think would be fantastic. I would love to do that, but as well. But so I don't think film school is the right choice for everyone, and it really is a personal decision. Although I'm very grateful for the experience that I had.
Great. And then this question is from one of our filmmakers, JJ McDowell,
Yeah.
um, who made growing old with us, growing old with me. What is the biggest lesson you learned while making your second feature?
Oh, biggest lesson. Yeah, that's a good one too. I mean, I think it's always about working with people that you love to work with, to having great collaborators, whether, You Belong to Me, my first one, probably had 25, 30 people on the crew. Seaside had 15 people. You just have to have people that you love to work with, that you trust, that you believe will make your own work better. And I had really talented people. Again, tiny crew, but they had a lot of experience. My production designer was amazing. Looked at the reels for a bunch of different production designers, and as soon as I saw hers, I was like, she's the person. She has a vision. She knows what she's doing. And same thing with my cinematographer. We didn't have a lot of money, but we figured out how to work together and hopefully made a strong piece of work. So I think it's having a great crew, and just pushing forward and doing it no matter what.
And this is the last question from our filmmaker and programmer, Melissa Johnson. What's one filmmaking mistake you've made that you're grateful you did?
What's filmmaking? I mean, what haven't I done? I mean, what mistake haven't I done? Um, I think that's a really good question. That's a hard question. I mean, it's all about making mistakes, really, and trying things and sort of trusting your gut, and then seeing what what works or what doesn't work. I think there's so much, it's all rewriting, I think, right? So if there's a problem in the script, which there always will be, no matter how hard I try in production or casting, shooting, I learned to figure out, okay, how can I change that? How can I collaborate with my actors or with my shooter or whatever? And the same thing with the editing, with the sound design, with the music. I think it's like just being open to those mistakes, honestly, and just knowing that you're going to do it, and you just got to kind of trust your gut and go forward, and then do your best. And I think, learn to appreciate the experience. I think, there's been various times in my career when I've sort of had goals that were out here and that always seem so hard to reach. And I think what's most important is to just keep making the work, and getting better.
Great. Well, Sam, thank you so much. And it's
Thank you.
just been a great pleasure to have you here and also watching your movie.
Thanks.
We're going to escort you back to the attendee and we're going to bring on the jurors.
Hi.
Hey, Ran, you made it. Oh,
I
great.
made it. I'm in Joshua Tree, but I'm here.
Oh, nice. Oh, do you have a cabin out there?
We just came out. We
Okay.
found one for a couple of days before the lockdown begins.
My friend's actually working on a cabin in Joshua Tree right now. But anyways, welcome to the awards section and the announcement section of the program. And I just want to first of all thank the jurors for really watching all the movies and really selecting the winners. Thank you so much. We have Chris Lee, who's the head of the jury, and Sara Gilbert, actress and producer, Melissa Haizlip, filmmaker, award-winning filmmaker, and we have talent manager, Aubrey Frazier. So thank you so much for being here. We're going to start off with Chris making his jury statement, and then we're going to go to Sara, and we're going to go to Melissa, and we're going to go to Ran. And Ran, you're going to announce the first winner.
What are we announcing first? Because I'm announcing the special mention and the acting award. But
okay.
What order do you want?
In that case, then we are going to announce the features first. So I think so. Sorry, the closing. Sorry, the feature award, that is. So maybe Ran should start first.
Sure.
Yeah, or you can put feature at the end, just because there's only two, so you might as well put it in front.
So who's on first? Is it me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, hello to all of our distinguished guests. As mentioned, my name is Ran Frazier. I'm a talent manager based in Los Angeles, joining all of you from Joshua Tree on the eve of a second lockdown for California. It has been such an enormous privilege to serve on this jury for the inaugural Yale and Hollywood Film Festival. Even under these unusual circumstances, I'm so thrilled that I got to participate, and all of these films moved me so deeply. After watching the lineup, I can definitively say I could not be more proud to have been a theater and film studies alum of this institution. I was particularly impressed by the diversity of the films, the different viewpoints in storytelling, the scope of the issues that were tackled, the aesthetic confidence that was on display in each and every short in both of the features, the intellect, the intelligence undergirding the entries. Congratulations to each and every one of you and your creative teams, and I look forward to following your artistic journeys as they unfurl. There are a few standouts for me personally. I loved The Summer of Snakes. Cinematographically, I found it virtuosic. I was so moved by the story of a girl on the cusp of womanhood, told so simplistically, narratively, but stylistically evocative of modern classics such as Call Me by Your Name. I loved Voyeur. It took me on a journey back to Yale, to physical spaces and architecture that I remember so well, and familiar faces like Professor Murray Biggs. As a performance major, I remember those rehearsal spaces, and I remember the processes, and it was just an immersive experience as to how productions come into being and come alive, and how you take something raw and inchoate and fashion it into something that you can then share with an audience. I want to particularly single out a young woman, Delilah Napier, for an incredible performance. You killed it. I loved Seaside for a number of reasons. In particular, its subversiveness of genre and its embrace of queer BIPOC POV that we never see in this space. So hats off to its creative team and its cast. Of all three of those that I mentioned, I am truly so appreciative that women were front and center, and that these were feminist texts that advance such integral conversations about women in an era where rights are obviously facing existential threat. So kudos to all of those films. Seaside in particular was a triumph. So rarely do we get to see such a nuanced portrayal of a queer woman of color centered in such a complex storyline. Seaside gave her what Hitchcock gave to heroines of the 20th century: agency, nuance, and villainy in a breakout role I've never seen before, but want to see more of in Hollywood. And without further ado, I would like to present the best feature of Yale and Hollywood Best 2020 to Seaside by Sam Zalutsky.
And Sam, let's bring Sam on for a couple of words.
Hi, thank you so much, Ran, for all of those kind words. I'm so glad that you love the film, and that it reached you, and it was a real pleasure to make. And I don't know what else to say other than, being compared to Hitchcock is really one person a filmmaker I did not mention in my Q&A, but who obviously had a huge influence on me. So anything that would, compare me to Hitchcock is a very powerful and meaningful statement, and happy to, as a white filmmaker, I think it's up to me and other white filmmakers to help change the face of Hollywood. And that was my one small part in that was trying to give complexity to these characters. And so I appreciate you mentioning that as well. And I'm very honored to be a part of this festival, and really honored to receive this award. So thank you so much.
Great. And now Chris is going to make a statement and announce some awards.
Thanks so much. I'm so glad to be here. Quentin and Kevin, thank you so much for inviting me to be a part of this jury. I really enjoyed seeing all the films. I was a political science undergrad at Yale. I was in Branford College. I've gone back a few times, and I'm always amazed when I see what the campus looks like now, not to mention what New Haven looks like now compared to when I was there. I was graduated in the class of 80. I graduated and I went into entertainment business. I worked at Good Morning America first, and then worked for Wayne Wang, and then I worked in films and rose to president of production at Columbia and TriStar Pictures. But I also, when I've come home to Hawaii, which is where I'm broadcasting from, I started the first film school for the University of Hawaii, and we're opening our new production center here. And so one of the things I do a lot is I see a lot of student films. So I'm very happy as a member of the jury to give a special jury prize to Voyeur, as well as the Yale and Hollywood Best Acting Award to the film's Delilah Napier. Lucy Powers and Delilah Napier's impressive debut feature Voyeur, which they co-wrote, co-directed, co-produced, and co-starred in, all as undergraduates at Yale, is a delightful, bitingly funny, and often painfully honest look at life at Yale College. Personally, no film has made me yearn more for those bright college years. Set amid the vicious, competitive world that is the Yale Drama Club, this remarkable student film, which was made for $6,000, including apparently a $4,000 grant from Yale, promises a great future in Hollywood for both of these multi-hyphenates. Napier's performance as Ella Anderson stands out for the Best Acting Award because of her effortless portrayal of a seemingly naive, fresh person who transforms into a contemporary Eve Harrington with a feminist twist. So congratulations to the filmmakers from the jury.
And let's bring Delilah and Lucy onto screen, and they can talk for a little bit.
Sorry. Hi.
Hi, Delilah.
Thank you so much. I didn't realize you have to manually unmute and start your video. But oh, we're so honored. I know Lucy, I know she's on the Zoom.
I'm here, yeah.
I hear her. No, I'm kidding. We were just so honored to be a part, and we're so glad that fellow Yaleys got to see it, because sort of what Rand was saying, just all the familiar places, and that's what we always said, it was kind of a living yearbook of our Yale experience.
Yes, completely. We just had such a great time collaborating with a huge team of Yale people, so this goes out to everyone involved, and we're so lucky to have each other as collaborators.
Yeah, and it was wild, but so worth it, and everyone involved was Yale. So when we saw this festival, we were like, well, Boyer checks every box, because every actor, every crew member, yeah, it was a thesis project. But and we had no idea it would go so far, but we're so glad it did, and we secretly always hoped it would get a wider audience.
Thank you so much. This is such an honor.
Yes.
Congratulations. So now we're going to bring Sara Gilbert on, and she's going to be making her statement and also giving out another award.
Yes. So hi, everybody. I'm so honored to be here as well. This is awesome to be able to connect with Yale people while we're all stuck in our houses. A little bit about my connection to filmmaking and to the school. When I first went to Yale, I thought, okay, I'll take this time away from the industry. I'd kind of acted my whole life and not really had a normal childhood, whatever that means. And I'll throw myself into this different kind of academic life, and I'll broaden who I am as a person. So I started as a psychology major, and as time went on, I would take an art class here, an art class there, and I just started to really discover this brilliant art department. And suddenly, I was studying with photography with Gregory Crutzen and sitting in on lectures with Nan Golden. And at some point, it just became really obvious to me that the arts were more exciting than my undergraduate psychology major, which is no disrespect to any psychology majors out there. But for me personally, it was just sort of a calling. So I became an art major with an emphasis in photography. And so I was doing that and thinking, well, this is different from what I did back in the industry. But then suddenly I had to do a senior project, and I decided, well, I'm going to make a short film. So, there it was, without meaning to, I had come full circle. And so I think this is all to say two things, which is, if you're supposed to make things, if you're driven to be creative, there's just really no escaping it. And secondly, that what I thought was this academic place of learning was not just that. It was this creative haven where I had landed in a pile of genius artists. And so all of that said, I was so thrilled to be judging at a Yale Film Festival. And I was so impressed with the work. What an exciting group of filmmakers, such specific tones, such interesting stories. I saw a real point of view in so many of these movies, which is really what it's all about. What is your story and what do you want to say? So you all make me so excited about what is to come in the industry. And most importantly, I'm so grateful that I had all of this great entertainment during quarantine. So thank you for sharing your talents with me. And I will say, one film stood out in particular to me. I watched it and I liked it, but I liked it even more over time. It was one of those movies that you keep coming back to and you keep thinking about, and oh, I didn't get this the first time. Oh, right. And I just kept putting the pieces together, and it got deeper and deeper to me over time, and it really moved me. It had a point of view. It was beautifully shot. It was beautifully edited, just top to bottom, so professional. So the best dramatic short goes to On the Whistle.
Yay! So let's bring TJ, Noah Sullivan, onto screen, and he can talk a little bit about the film. Thank you, Sarah.
Hi, thank you so much. This is so exciting. Yeah, thank you. I I should say I think with every film, and this film especially, maybe the most credit I should get for just be picking a great cast and crew to collaborate with, because that made so much of this film. Um, I also think like this is really exciting as a festival, because Yale was so influential in making this film. This was my thesis film at Yale, and the first conversation I basically had about this film was with alumni Chip Horahan, who's had just produced a basketball film, and so he gave me some amazing advice. We had bunch of underclassmen who came and worked on the crew. And we would not have been able to make the film without them volunteering their time and coming back from winter break a little earlier. Also, my first year roommate, Kai Nugent, actually acts in the film and was amazing. So really, like, Yale is so much of why this film was able to be made. So being at the Yale and Hollywood Film Festival is amazing to accept this award. And yeah, I'm really excited. It is a project that I want to move forward with. I'm currently shopping the feature script on, so hopefully this award can get the ball rolling in making the feature. So thank you guys so much.
Congratulations, TJ. I look forward to your feature. I think you'll get to make it for sure. I hope.
Fingers crossed.
So let's bring Melissa Haizlip on, and Melissa is going to be giving her jury statement, announcing the rest of the awards.
Oh, okay. Hi, everybody. Let me just pull my notes in front here. I want to say thank you, first of all, to Quentin for putting this together. It's so exciting to be on a jury of our peers and also of our Yaleys. That just really warmed my heart, and it was very exciting to see all of this work, especially during the pandemic. There are a lot of things that I have to watch, and it was just such a pleasure to be able to watch this. I'm on a couple of other juries as well, so I felt like it was a real getaway all the time, and I was just so excited to know that this work had been going on. I don't know if anyone completed their films in quarantine, but just how inspiring it is to see. Now let me just put my glasses on so I can read a little bit better. I also wanted to say thank you, especially for allowing me to serve on this jury. I actually just lectured at Yale for the first time. I was in JE, by the way, and I lectured at a class a couple of weeks ago in the African American Studies department, and it was so exciting to be able to come back that way as well. So I want to congratulate all the filmmakers. You guys are all winners just because you're here. It's so hard to make a film. As a filmmaker, I completely understand that. It's harder also to understand that there's so many people out there. No one's really competing with you, though. If you have your vision and you really know what you want to say, there really is no competition. But of course, we are giving awards, etc. But I just want to say that that's very important. And I also want to encourage you to pursue your vision, to refine your storytelling, and really, really hone your craft. But overall, I felt that the films were very surprising and illuminating and entertaining and very specific. So it's very exciting to see that with such, from young eyes, if you will. So in looking at the films in competition this year, one film really stood out to me, of course, and that's Sam Zalutsky's Seaside. And I know we've already awarded it, but I just want to pile on my compliments and say that I just love the sort of sexy murderous plot and all the entanglements. And of course, the diverse cast. This was really significant. I was so excited to see a Black queer woman's story being centered in this way. And jumping on to the whole Hitchcock vibe, I had just rewatched The Birds last weekend on regular television. I think it was on Turner Classics. So that was really exciting. I also felt that. But most of all, I want to thank you for changing the narrative because, Black women's queer stories have suffered from erasure. And I'm so glad to see you correcting that by putting this back in the narrative. I want to give a couple other shout outs, of course. To Voyeur, I love that it was made by a team of women. You ladies crushed it. And my favorite line from the film, I have to say, is when Maxine says, "Kids are career killers and body killers." I love that. It's also great to see the film shot, it's already said, around campus and even at Claire's. Yes, we clocked that. So that was really excellent. I actually grew up in New Haven, so I'm a townie. So that was really funny to see that. And also I appreciated this film so much because I had my first performing experience at Yale. I did West Side Story at the Yale Dramat, and that really impacted my whole life. And when I left Yale, I went on to become a Broadway dancer, singer, actress, performer for many years. So my film life is actually a second career for me. I spent 25 years on Broadway. So it was really neat. I felt like, you know, seeing everything happening on campus, I just felt like I was kind of reliving that era, and I think it was very well captured. I'm glad that you guys had access to all those places where you could shoot. And of course, shout out to Delilah for her wonderful subtlety and transparency. And then I want to give a couple other shout outs. I thought that the cinematography was exceptional in Summer of Snakes. I thought it was beautifully shot with intimacy and honesty and really shot through an unflinching lens. So I love that. I also wanted to shout out Boxes because I felt that it was so surprising in its quirkiness. I actually had to watch it twice because I wasn't sure what I was watching. And that was exciting to me that I had to go back and pay really close attention. I also really enjoyed On the Whistle, of course. I thought it was powerful, and the dynamics and the way the personal conflicts were shot was really well done, very compelling. And now I'm probably going to have to announce some additional awards. So shall I go ahead and do all of them?
Yes, please.
Okay, so let us see what we haven't said yet. Yes, so we would like to acknowledge again all of the wonderful films. You guys are all winners, and would specifically like to honor the Best Comedy Short Award. Will go to Coffee Shop Names. Congratulations.
Is anyone from Coffee Shop Names here? I don't think so. So anyways.
Okay.
Well, congratulations, Team Coffee Shop Names.
Yeah. So next we have the Best Cinematography Award. I may have given that away a little bit, and we'd like to honor the team of the Summer of Snakes for Best Cinematography.
Unfortunately, Lana, the filmmaker Lara Pana Isadi, is actually in Europe right now, so she won't be here.
All right, awesome. And we have a very special jury prize that we'd like to give to a very beautiful film, the same film, The Summer of Snakes.
Well, congratulations, Lara. Unfortunately, you're not here. But I think this is a wrap for the Year in Hollywood Fest 2020. So thank you so much for being part of it. Really, really appreciate it. You know, without you guys, this festival wouldn't happen. So thank you so much and have a great evening.